Hello, single person watching. My name is Scrape, and this has been a video I have been taking notes for a long while. I was planning on making it when quarantine first started, but, I gave up. So, we're doing this now. In the background is a commission I was working on for someone on Instagram. If you would like to commission me, hit me up. My cat just got up off of his chair, and I think he might want out. So, he might not be my recording buddy, sadly. But if you hear any jingling or stuff like that, that is my boy. The sweetest boy in the world. Except when he's not. And yep, he wants out. The stand for my microphone broke, so I'm holding it. So hopefully that won't change too much about the video. But, yes. So let's get right into it. I lost my job, as did many other people during quarantine. And I thought that would be the perfect opportunity to make a video about it, since a lot of interesting things happened at that place. Now, I've been going to that place since I was little. We're just going to call it, Debby's All-American Diner, which is funny, because I live in Canada. So, my mom works at Debby's All-American Diner. She didn't lose her job, luckily. So I've been going there since I was little, since she's worked there since I've been born, so a long while. So I've been going to Debby's All-American Diner since I was very small. I would go there for birthdays, as well as at moments when we were going to see my mom at work, because she was maybe having a long day, and my grandma would take us, and it was a place where I randomly shouted "I love broccoli" at the top of my lungs, and I was tiny. So, fond memories. Fond memories. But then I started working there. And now, I had heard some interesting things about Debby's All-American Diner from my mom. The occasional Karen story, the occasional dine and dash, but it was generally decent. There was some stuff that came out about the previous manager hiring underage staff, like, to the point where when I was 12 I could have gotten a job there. And, I didn't. But I could have, and I was actually considering it. But that was also the time I got really anxious about everything, so... no. So I've divided this video up into two sections. The funny / odd stuff that happened, and then the not so funny / negative stuff that happened. So, like every good video, we're going to start off with the positive stuff, the quote-unquote positive stuff. Well, some of it was really strange, and I stopped taking notes about it. I have bullet points here, but I stopped taking notes about it for a while, because I was lazy. So if I might go off quote-unquote script a few times if I remember things or stuff happens, but for the most part I am working off of bullet points this time, so yay, I'm not going to be so rambly, hopefully, possibly, probably not, but it doesn't hurt to try. So, I worked as a dishwasher, and so my first day on the job was a training shift, so a typical 8-hour shift, rush hour. I was trained by angry little Asian woman, a Jamaican, and some dude that just stood around on his phone. Those are the people that trained me. The Jamaican guy was really nice. He sounded very stoned all the time, and like, he was just the go with the flow type. And I got overwhelmed so easily. It was, oh my god, it was treacherous. Like, working rush hour refers to cars usually, but working, like, the rush at Denny's All-American Diner was hell on earth for me, I am not gonna lie. First day in there, I already knew it was gonna be something. Definitely something. But, so, I completely forgot. Because I went there, most of the people who knew my mom knew me. And if this is your first video here, hi, welcome to the Single Person Watching Club, or a club of a single person, being me. We're all just me. It's all just Skype. Everybody who watches my videos is now Skype. Congratulations. Hello, single Skype watching. God. Everybody, well, most of the people that worked there had known me since I was a child, which had positives and negatives. They knew me, so, and I kind of knew them, so, but since they knew me, it was easier to bridge the gap. But that also meant they knew me. Not me. For those of you who don't know, I'm trans. I seem to say that in every single video. It's like, I'm trans. And that's my whole identity, is being trans. Oh, look at me. I'm a non-cisgendered individual. Haha. Anyway. That was one of the main downfalls of working there, was definitely the misgendering. It was definitely, oh my god, it was, oh boy, every single conversation I had with someone, I would be called she, her, miss, ma'am, everything under the sun that would make my insides shrivel up and die. Except for the stoner Jamaican dude. Like, at first he was like, oh, so you're Debbie's daughter. And I'm like, actually, I'm her son. And she's like, oh, I didn't know Debbie had a son. I'm like, yeah, Debbie has a son. That would be me. And then every time after, when he saw my mom, he would be like, oh, how's your son doing? I haven't seen him in a while. How's your son? And it warms my heart. I hope he's doing okay. One thing that was fun was scheduling. See, my manager, on top of being a little bit homophobic, and also not knowing how to handle people with mental issues, because during my my interview, I mentioned that I had anxiety. Because I want to be upfront about it. It's like, yes, I've been diagnosed with an anxiety disorder, and I'm on meds for my depression. And I just want to let you know that may impact my work sometimes. Because you want to be upfront about that stuff. It'd be like, hey, this might impact me at some points. I just want you to know these are my coping mechanisms. This is how I deal with it. And, like, I was a little anxious during the thing, so I might not have been that concise about it. But that was the basic gist of what I said. And he pauses. He has this look on his face, so it's like, you know the look people get when they, like, want to pick up a baby, but they don't know how? That was the kind of look he got on his face. And then he was like, maybe we should bring your mom in. And I'm like, Okay. And that is another thing that I didn't actually write down. Well, I did, kind of, but, oh my god. Golly gracious gosh. Benevolent ancients. They would never tell me anything I did wrong. They would tell my mom. They would, rather than coming to me. They would go to my mom in the next shift she worked and tell her what I was doing. They wouldn't tell me. They wouldn't, like half the time I heard from her what I was doing wrong, rather than them telling me what I was doing wrong. And usually the main manager didn't work on my shift, but I either had the secondary manager or the regional manager. No, he's the regional manager. I don't know what the term was. We either had the secondary, like the assistant manager, or the supervisor, I'm gonna call them. But I don't know. We had 2 supervisors. One of them got put on suspension for picking favorites. And the other one, she was really nice. I had to work a Christmas shift one time, and she bought us cheese sticks. That was actually the only... I actually had a lot of fun during the Christmas shift, I'm not gonna lie. I was covering for, one of the people I worked with who... She was a sweetheart, like... I hope she's doing okay, too, but... She was a sweetheart, and I covered for her on the Christmas shift because she wanted to spend it with her husband. So I'm like, okay, yeah, I can do that. No! So I covered her shift for Christmas, and it was a decently small team. It was me, another dude who I'll talk about later, who was also pretty nice, the regional manager, not regional, the supervisor that bought us cheese sticks that night, and a few others. And at first I got a little overwhelmed because it's like, Christmas rush. But after a while it was really good. And like, they would always go to my mom rather than talk to me. And that developed into something major later on down the line, where it's like, I want to say a couple months before I got let go because of COVID, I had apparently done something wrong. I don't actually know what it was, because, hey, they didn't tell me. But I had apparently done something wrong. I remember that shift not being the best for me. And rather than the manager talking to me about it, the next day, when my mom went into work in the morning, because I would work the night, I would work swing shift, and then she would work the next day in the morning. Or like afternoon, morning. So, she was approached by the main manager and was like, so I've heard that dead name, that's another thing, always using my dead name despite having M on file, on record. It was on file as M, not as dead name, but you know what, but I've heard that dead name is, like, I forget his exact wording, but it was basically just like, we need to have a meeting with dead name, because apparently they're on probation again. It's like, excuse? Because in any other situation, if my mom hadn't been there, they would have talked to me about it. At least I'm pretty sure this was my first job, So I'm assuming they would talk to, like, that I had done something major and they would have talked to me about it rather than my mom. But no, they go to my mom. They don't tell me. I have to hear a day later. Like, I don't remember, maybe a few days, because I don't remember if she was working that Sunday or if it was the Monday. But I have to hear later on that, oh boy, I did something wrong and I might get fired. So I have to have a meeting with the managers. And apparently there had been something lost in communication between the supervisor and the main manager. It was just all over the place, but I wasn't actually in trouble. They just wanted to have a meeting with me to reassess, like, not the main manager, the supervisors, they wanted to reevaluate. That was what it was. They wanted to reevaluate my employment. That was the wording they used. And of course, so, me being anxious child me, my first thought is, I'm getting fired for something I don't even know what I did, which I was later informed I legally couldn't get fired because it would have been my first strike. But that was a whole situation. But I didn't handle the situation very well either, I will admit that. It was very anxious for me. I ended up spending, because they scheduled me for a long shift, so they would have time to retrain me. And so, because the supervisor was really sweet, she let me spend the rest of, like, the extra time they had scheduled me for. She let me spend it crying in the patio, because that's what I did. It was not a fun time. It was really bad. I did not have a fun time during that. But other than the main manager being generally unable to handle his role as a main manager, he didn't know how to schedule people properly. So we worked this thing called push operations, I think is what it was called. Either push operations or post operations. But you would get notifications when you were scheduled. I never got any notifications, for one. And for two, my schedule would change like every other day. It was very strange. I usually only worked 1 or 2 days on the weekends because I had school every other day. And I would work 3 to 4 hours. Very short shifts because that was all I could handle. And luckily they understood that. They only understood it because my mom was there. And she had worked there for ages, and they didn't want to let her down. But that was one good thing, at least. But my schedule would change so many times. I would not be scheduled one day, I'd be scheduled the next, I'd be scheduled not. And it's like, it's not that I would, like, just have an inconsistent schedule. It would be like, the schedule changed every other day. So I didn't know what I was going to be doing on the weekend until the weekend itself came. So I would, like, if I was social in the slightest, I would have made plans. And then realize, oh, wait a minute. That's, I'm scheduled. I can't do that anymore. Or I would have not made plans. Realized, oh, hey, I'm not scheduled anymore. So, I could make plans. And then it was a whole situation. And another thing was, like, along the same lines as scheduling, I booked some time off, but I don't remember when it was time off for. I think it was when I got my oral surgery, because I had to get a roof tooth removed. But the bullet point I have written down is, I don't care that you weren't scheduled, you didn't do a good job. that was what it was. That's it in a nutshell. But getting into that, I had booked some time off, and then this was before the whole needing to reevaluate my employment, or reassess my employment, or whatever it was. But the main manager had used an example of saying that I had been slacking in my work from the dates of blank to blank. Guess what those dates were? The dates I wasn't there. The dates I had booked off were the dates I apparently was slacking. Oh, whoop-de-doo. Oh, whoop-de-whoop-whoop-whoop. Whoop-de-whoop-whoop. I didn't do a good job because I wasn't freaking there. Like, how can... Oh, yes, do you expect me to show up on a day I am not scheduled and do a fantastic job when I'm not there? And so there was one time during my shift that we were preparing for a health inspection. So it was my task as a dishwasher. Oh, and when I say dishwasher, I mean not just a dishwasher, but we did everything under the sun. We, like, aside from cooking and serving, we did the dishes, took out the trash, mopped the floors, swept the floors, cleaned outside, took out garbage, took out boxes, like, we did everything. And on top of sometimes clearing the tables when the other people didn't want to, and cleaning the tables, making sure everything was clean, and it was fun. Very fun. I signed up to wash dishes, and I got everything else. Including washing dishes. But, we were preparing for a health inspection. And so it was our job to clean. So me and... I'm gonna call her Karen. But she isn't a Karen. She's an amazing woman, honestly. Karen was just the first name that came to mind. But, so, very nice, wonderful woman Karen is teaching me how to clean. And I'm not saying that sarcastically. Like, she really is a wonderful woman. So she's helping me clean, and we have to clean in the back, because that's where they inspect. The front's usually clean, but in the back is like, ooh, So, I am tasked with scrubbing down a wall, and honestly, I enjoyed doing this more than I did doing the dishes. I don't know what about it was just so fun to me, but it was really fun. But it was, like, gross. Like, the walls back there are supposed to be white. And I had managed to get a portion of it back to the regular whiteness that it was. And then I look at the other section, it's like, wait a minute. It's like a yellowy, ivory, kind of grayy kind of tone. And so I look back to the white, I look to the disgust colored, and I'm like, oh, that's a lot of grime. And so I spend a good shift, I want to say, like 3 hours cleaning a wall, which I enjoyed. And then my next shift, because I worked 2 that week, I think. Yeah, worked 2. My next shift, I was working on cleaning the floors in that section. And on top of the grout not being laid down properly between the tiles, so it was peeling up. I thought it was dirt. No, it was grout that I was, like, scrubbing away easily, might I add. Underneath there was dirt. but the grout was coming up, the tiles weren't laid down properly, and then I come to an interesting discovery. There's a leak. There's a leak in, I don't know what the room was, but there was a leak in it. As well as the bottoms of the door frames looked a little interesting. So, me being curious, I start picking at it. Because, like, it's my job to clean. And I was scrubbing it, and it was, like, flaking away. I'm like, well, that's interesting. Because even the door frames were dirty. So I'm poking around, and I get my finger under. It feels like wet cardboard. With a little, like, flick of my finger, I'm able to peel back the bottoms, like the bottom of the door frame, like it's wet cardboard. And I check, like, other ones that weren't around the same area, like, all back. I checked some of them back there, they were all like that, and then I checked the ones in the front. And I was like, maybe they're just cardboard door frames. Wouldn't put it past it for cutting corners and cutting costs. Nope, they're wood. Check the tops of door frames back there. They're wood. They're solid wood. So the bottoms of the door frames were rotting. That is the conclusion I have come to, is the bottoms of the door frames at Debbie's All-American Diner were rotting. And it was definitely a discovery. There was also this long hallway that, like, led to the outside where they would store old boxes and stuff. And so it's also our job to break boxes. So I'm breaking boxes, and I step in something wet. Like, I have my shoe on, but I hear, like, a crunch and, like, a squelch, and then I look down, and it's like, there was just a box full of eggs. And, I don't know if I've talked about this before on my channel or not, but I hate eggs. I despise them. I loathe them from a traumatic event in my history, and I'm not over exaggerating when I say traumatic. Like, for years after, I could not be around eggs, like, without feeling like my heart's going to explode. It's not necessarily a fear. Like, I'll say I'm afraid of eggs, because it just sounds better than saying I have a deep-seated repulsion for eggs, and if I'm in the vicinity of one, I feel like I'm going to both puke and die. Yeah, I don't like eggs. And that was one issue with being a dishwasher, was, for one, the old boxes of eggs. For two, the egg liquids that would be spilled out across the floor of that hallway. And for three, sometimes we would have, because we had to clean the kitchen dishes, say that 5 times fast. We would have to clean the dishes, the kitchen's dishes. The kitchen's dishes. And they would store, like, hard-boiled eggs and stuff in these little metal containers, but they would stack them on top of each other when they handed them to us. So I would be cleaning, and I'd pull out the containers. There's one of salsa, one of sour cream. It's, like, old stuff, so we gotta chuck it. Oh, there's another thing I would do. Getting to that after. But, and then I'd reach my hand in and just feel... egg. And I would feel like my entire skin was shriveling up and, like, just crawling off of my body. Which I wouldn't mind, because then I wouldn't have tits anymore. But, God, I hate eggs. This has turned into scrape rants about hating eggs. Leave that in the comments, is, scrape, you're an egg. I might shout one of you out, maybe, possibly, I don't know. But scrape is an egg. We've discovered that. And so, on the topic, that I didn't actually write this down as a note, but I would get really hungry on my shifts. My mom told me that working around food, you would get desensitized to it. No, I just got hungry. Like, my mom, during work, would start looking at food as just an item and not food. I would look at food and be like, shit, I want to eat that. And so one thing I would do during my shifts is there would be a lot of people that wouldn't eat their food. And I'm one of the people that just absolutely hates wasting food. Like, even if I'm out at a restaurant, I will get it to go. I'll wait till I'm hungry again and then continue eating, and it's like, because I don't want to waste food. So there would be many, many times where I would see, and I would always check to make sure that the food is still warm. But I would see food that had just been put in one of the bus stubs, which was also our job to get. It would be on the top. It would be still warm. It would be untouched, practically. And I would sneakily sneak it off to the back room and consume it. Because I'm a hungry child. And it's still good. That was another thing, was people would leave food in the back room, like the staff room, which was literally just a little intersection of the hallway I had mentioned earlier, with a chair and a table, 2 chairs and a table, and it led into the staff washroom. Basically, to paint a picture, you'd have the front room, which was the dining hall and everything, which would lead into a hallway, which had the kitchen on one side, and behind the kitchen would be where the dishes were kept, and the dishes were kept in the kitchen. It was where the dirty dishes and the dishwasher was kept. The dishwasher looked like it had a face. It was very cute. And then off to the other side was the hallway with the boxes, which had a door to the fridge, and the door to the fridge, adjacent to the door to the fridge, was a small little cutout hallway that had the staff, quote-unquote, staff room, which then led into the bathroom, which is a small little, outhouse-sized place that one time overflowed. And I had to put a sign on the door saying, hey, don't use this, it died. But anyway, I would set the extra food in the little area, which is the staff room, and just be like, hey, food. And that was another thing that people would do, was they would order food, and then if they wouldn't eat it all, they would just leave it there. And I'm like, I'd make sure it wasn't getting touched again, like they had forgotten about it, or they weren't hungry anymore, and it's like, food. Because I was a hungry baby boy. I still am. I was called a black hole as a child. I would just consume everything. Still do. It's one of my many talents, is just eating copious amounts. Because hungry. So that kind of leads into this next part, which I will fully admit, just 100% already, I was in the wrong. This was a really bad thing to do. But, and luckily they forgave me for it. But, so people would oftentimes leave food for other people in the room. They would, be like a free-for-all. Whoever got to it first would get it. And so, and working off of that and having that happen. Before, that was just my automatic assumption. I would sometimes sneak like a bite of something or stuff, and usually no one minded. Nobody paid any mind to it. It was just what happened. Like one time, one of my fellow dishwashers left cookies, and so we all got to eat cookies. And so that was my assumption going into this, was it had been food left for whoever wanted it. And so, sitting on the table, I see bubble tea. Untouched, like someone had bought bubble tea. And looking back, I'm so stupid, but it was like halfway through my shift, I was tired, I was hungry, I hadn't had bubble tea in ages, it was a horrible shift. So my brain was just like, ooh, take the bubble tea. I'm like, no, I shouldn't. I don't know whose it is. It's like, take the bubble tea. So I took the bubble tea. It was really good. And then, after I finish it, like, because I'm drinking it on the job, because that's one of the perks of working in the back, is you get to basically drink and eat on the job. That was another thing that would happen, is, one time, this was after I got retrained, but I had ordered myself a burrito. Yes, Debby's All-American Diner sold burritos. It's like a chicken burrito. Chicken, like, breakfast punchy burrito. It was decent. But I had ordered myself one of those, so I was eating it while I was working. I would stop, take a bite, get back to work, stop, take a bite, get back to work. And it seemed like every single time I stopped for a split second to take a bite, the supervisor would come in and be like, "What are you doing? Get back to work." I'm like, it wasn't even that busy, which was the thing. It's like, I was doing my work. I can understand that they would want it to, like, have everyone be on top of everything, but at the same time, I was working. I just stopped for a split second to take a bite of my burrito, and it was illegal. But going back to the story at hand, oh boy. I hear, we'll call her Churro. I overhear Churro saying to the other dishwashers, like, "Oh, I was really looking forward to having my bubble tea, and I don't know what happened to it." And I just stand there, I'm like, oh shit, tits. I drank the bubble tea. And it took me, like, nearly the rest of my shift to work up the courage to go up to her and be like, "Hey, I'm really sorry. I drank your bubble tea. I had gotten my tip out that day, so I'm like, I can give you the money to buy it again." It's like, I was sorry, I had a lapse in judgment. I thought it was, like, one of those things people put there to, like, share with everyone, and I was a dumbass. And she was like, "Oh, it's okay, it's okay." She kind of laughed it off and was like, "You don't need to, it's fine." I'm like, oh, okay. And things were awkward with her after that. But, yeah, I drank someone's bubble tea at work. That was a situation and a half. Next bullet point I have here is people not doing their jobs. That was something that would happen a lot. I touched on it a bit when I was getting trained, but one of the people I would work with sometimes was this big burly dude that could carry a lot, but didn't do much. He would stand around on his phone for most of his shift. I don't know how he hadn't gotten fired. Like, I'm being completely honest. I don't know how he hadn't gotten fired, because he did next to nothing. And, like, he still did some stuff. Like, he wasn't just there to collect the money and leave. He would occasionally wash dishes, and he mostly handled bringing them to the kitchen and back, but for the most part, he would stand next to the door, make sure no one was looking, and then go on his phone. And, like, sneaking a look at your phone every once in a while, I've done that. I've seen other people do that. It's not a sin. Like, most people won't get uppity at you for it. And the thing I noticed about Debbie's was it was both a hectic and yet laid back environment. Like, I felt like I was dying every time I went there, but at the same time it was very welcoming and very laid back. So I was getting a lot of mixed signals from that one building. I would step in the door and dread my existence, and then have someone smile at me and be like, yeah, everything's fine. And then I would break an entire bin of plates and be like, oh shit, I'm dying. And then I would scrub the wall and be like, oh, yeah, this is fine. This is all good. Everything's great. Overall, very interesting time there. But I would have sometimes people would come up to me, I'd be in the middle of something and be like, hey, can you clean off my table for me? Thanks. And then just leave. It's like, I'm doing something. Also, that's literally your job. There's nobody else in your section. You can clean off your... I would usually do it just because, like, no matter how busy I was, I'm a people pleaser. I tend to do a lot of stuff like that because I suck. The entire time I just feel like you're literally standing there chatting to people. Couldn't you not just pick up a few glasses? One time, I found $20 in the trash. That was pretty cool. One time I also found a bottle of Fireball at one of the tables, completely sealed, like, just a tiny bottle of Fireball sitting on one of the tables that I was cleaning off. So that was on the Christmas shift. During the Christmas shift, I found a tiny bottle of Fireball, which is like a cinnamon whiskey, I think. And so I brought it back for my dad so he could have it for Christmas. Yeah. Fireball. Because I knew he liked it. Which was funny because that was also the gift he got himself, was a big bottle of Fireball. So... that was fun. Sorry, my mic cut out a few times there. The cable wasn't hooked up properly. Let me stand. But, working off of that, people not doing their jobs, was this very strange incident, which I have titled Nachos with a Side of Plate Chips. So Debbie's had nachos. They were the type, I would like to order them and then get them to go, and then put them in the fridge. And they were overpriced as heck, but they were so good the day after when all the flavors seeped into the chips and it's like slightly mushy but still slightly crunchy. They're horrible the day of, but the day after they are absolutely delicious. Nachos were one of the most requested items, I'd say. I partook in them sometimes. They were disappointing, but amazing at the same time. It was a very strange dichotomy. But, so, I'm doing my thing, and I overhear the not second-hand manager, the secondary manager, not the main one, but the assistant manager, the assistant, I hear the assistant manager talking to one of the chefs, and just saying, like, this is the second time this has happened. Can you not put plate chips in the nachos? So I'm like, plate chips? So I, me being nosy, I go up to them and I'm like, hey, what was that about? And it's like, well, people have been finding little shards of plate in their nachos, and we don't know how. And it's like, what? Only at Debbie's All-American Diner could you get crappy nachos that are only good the day after and find shards of plate? I broke so many plates at that job. I lost track. I want to say my first few months on the job, I dropped plates like every shift. And there was one time and this is the incident why I didn't like using the carts that we would use, because man, those things were rickety, but you're supposed to use them to carry in multiple things. But after this incident, I was like, no, thank you, I'll just take them by hand. I don't care if it breaks my arms, I'm taking them in my hand. I load up all the items onto the cart. And they're stacked very precariously because people that clear the tables try to shove as many dishes as they possibly can into a bus tub at one point. So basically, they're stacked like the Tower of Pisa, and I'm trying to get them in without dropping them. And so I get them in, it's like, yeah, it's all good, from here I can hold it. So I start going, I run into the door, because they're swing doors, so you just push them open, but at the slightest push, a plate drops. And I'm like, oh, okay, one plate's fine. Another one. And then on my instinct, I go to grab it. And then me going to grab it hits the cart again. And then 5 other plates fall off. And so I'm just standing there trying not to cry as the world and the plates are breaking around me. Basically, at this point, I'm internally bawling. Some people come up to help me clean up the mess, and it's a fun time. We have fun here at Debbie's All-American Diner in Canada. But I broke so many plates. So somehow plate chips, plate shards, whatever you want to call them, got into nachos more than once. Is just that's what I am mostly concerned about. Is the fact that if it happened once, I could be like, okay, that's understandable. It happens sometimes. But more than once? It happened not once, not twice, but I'm pretty sure 3 to 4 times it happened where there were pieces of plate in people's nachos. It was very strange. And another weird thing I noticed, my first day on the job, was in Canada, milk comes in bags sometimes. Mass bulk orders of milk would be in bags. Those things are freezing, man. We keep them in the fridge. They were kept in the fridge. But the fridge was the freezing. It was freezer levels of cold. At least when it came to the milk, because I would pick up the milk and immediately my hands would turn to ice. That's just what happened. All the blood would freeze and I would lose my hands. And of course, because it's a bag of milk, it's not solid. It's like dealing with a bag of slime, but milk. So I'm trying to carry this thing, and it'll just jumping all over the place. But yeah, bags of milk. But we also had cartons of hash browns. That was the strange thing, was bags of milk, that's normal. Cartons of hash browns, milk cartons. The ones you would get in school lunches. But big cartons of frozen hash browns. The shredded ones, not the chopped ones. The shredded ones. They would basically just stick them on the grill. Everything was cooked on the grill, which isn't actually a grill, it's just a flat top grill, I think they're called. But they just slap it on, wait till the side was burnt, flip it over, wait another second, chuck it on a plate. They were oddly addictive. Pancakes, flavorless. Nachos, only good the day after. Hash browns came in cartons, burnt on one side, cold on the other. The square hash browns are pretty good though. They're like not the McDonald's hash browns where it's like a patty of potato. They were like when you put a potato through a grater and it's like grated cheese. It's like potato grated potato. That's the hash browns. Sometimes we'd have the grated hash browns, and we have cubed hash browns, which are basically just cubed potatoes in sauce, not sauce, seasoning. And so, milk bags and hash brown cartons, you know, the usual. Everything's upside down in Canada. Is that Australia? I don't know. Nothing makes sense here. We're in a fantasy land where our money's Monopoly money. But green smoothies. Oh boy, the green smoothies. So, we got this new item on the menu, and it was a green smoothie. That's what it was called. It was just a green smoothie. And I was particular for the mango smoothies. They were really good. A hassle and a half to make, but they were good. And there's the green smoothie, where it was just, it looked like someone puked chlorophyll into a cup. That's the easiest way I can describe it, was someone puked chlorophyll into a cup. But it tasted really good. Like, there was like apple and spinach and like, I'm not usually a big fan of yogurt, but I think there's some Greek yogurt in there. It was really good. It was really good. And every chance I got, I basically just like, not stole it from people because they would give me the leftovers, but that was one thing I liked about working there was oftentimes there would be extra milkshake or smoothie or stuff left over from a batch they would have to make for a table, and so the people in the back would get to drink it. And that was something that was strange was I would get in trouble for not cleaning up the smoothies quick enough, but then I would also get in trouble for cleaning them up too quickly. So that was never a balance I was able to achieve. Because at one point, I would basically be like waiting at the windows, like peering out through the doors, like, is there any containers? And then other times I'd be like, okay, I leave it there, they might want it. And then a person would come in and be like, why didn't you clean it up? We need more of these. And it's like, because you didn't, what? They told me to leave it. Like, no, we need more. The things. And one time the coffee maker leaked and like completely ruined the section that Karen had already cleaned. It was kind of funny, but I also felt really bad for her because, oh my god, that would suck. There were some questionable people there, but also a lot of really good people. Like, I think I'm going to call him Daniel, but there's this guy I worked with named Daniel, and the story after this has to do with him too, but he was really sweet. And then there was Clara, who was also really sweet. She was the one I took the shift for. She was the one I took the shift for on Christmas, so she could spend it with her husband. She worked at Debbie's, so that, and because her husband already had a really good paying job. So she worked at Debbie's for supplementary income, as well as apparently donated most of it to charities, which was just the sweetest freaking thing I've ever heard in my life. It's a woman that would put herself through this hell on earth, and she might have enjoyed it. I remember one time she split a plate of rice with me because I was hungry. She would get me fruit from the table, and usually you're allowed fruit, but I was too much of a chicken to go up there and get it myself because I felt like I was doing something illegal. We usually allowed, as long as it wasn't from the kitchen, you were usually allowed to take it, but like from up front, where it was like fruits, salads, and soup. Soup was a little more iffy, but the fruit was usually allowed. And because Clara worked so much there, the people usually allowed her to basically just have a free meal on the house during her shifts, and so she would sometimes split it with me. and it was really sweet. And I really hope she's doing okay. That's not her real name, of course, but she was really sweet. Whenever I would actually look forward to the shifts I had with her. And Daniel was actually pretty good too. I liked him too, but I was always afraid I was gonna let her down if I messed up or didn't do quite right or had a panic attack and locked myself in the bathroom. That happened more than once. Overall, a weird place to work. But this next story was earlier on in my existence at Debbie's. I was talking about wanting to get the burrito, the same burritos before. I was like, I don't know if I want to get the burrito or the nachos because I wanted food and I had gotten my tip out. I'm like, I'm hungry. Food. And so the person I'm working with, Daniel, is like, what's a burrito? And I'm like, you know what a burrito is? And he's like, no, what's a burrito? I'm like, well, it's like nachos. It's like, but wrapped in a tortilla. And it's like, what's... So I basically was like, so you know nachos, right? And he's like, yes, I think. What are nachos? So I'm like, they're the things on the menu where it's like a plate of chips with like the meat and the sauce on it. He's like, oh yeah, those. I like those. It was like, it's basically that, but rather than chips, you have a tortilla, which is either flour or corn, wheat flour or corn flour. It's like the chips, but soft. You roll it up in that. He's like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. So it was funnier in the moment. Me explaining it doesn't really make much sense, but I basically had to explain what a burrito was to one of my coworkers. So that was fun. So this is getting into very Stranger Things, where it's less funny, more so just really weird. Where during one of my earlier shifts, because again I work swing shift, so it would usually get pretty dark by the time I was done. And at one point, every time I would look out the window, there would be the same dude sitting in the booth across from the door that led out into the area and had a window in it. And I would glance out to see if there were any cups or anything that needed to be taken in. And I would just see him staring at me. Or staring at the door or staring in my general vicinity. I don't know if he was just zoning out, but it was every single time I looked out there, I could just see him. And then one time I looked out and he just wasn't there. And I'm pretty sure there's a logical explanation for that, but my spook brain is like, ooh, ghost. Because that place was already strange. And then, this was funny and also very weird. But during one of my shifts, I think it was... I don't remember if I had to stay later because I was waiting for someone to switch shifts with me or what, but the radio station played Rick Astley's Never Gonna Give You Up. And then cut out. And then picked up again, played Never Gonna Give You Up, and then cut out for the rest of my shift. So I got rickrolled twice by the Debbie's radio station, and then just yeeted out of there. It knew what it had done. And then, the last story I'm going to leave off with is a little more of a heartfelt one. But, so, I always carry around a stuffed animal with me wherever I go. Because it's calming for me, and it helps me regulate my emotions. But at work, I can't do that. One day, it's snowing, I want to say, late winter in Canada. And so it's snowing, it's cold. I'm out in the parking lot because I had to take boxes out, and I'm freezing, and I see a little purple thing. I see a little purple thing sticking out of a snowbank. And so, curiouser and curiouser is me. I go up to it. It's like, what is that? Who are you? Hello? And there's just a little purple bunny sticking out of the snowbank. So I pick him up and I dust him off. He's a little dirty. He looks old and well loved. He looks homemade, but there's a tag on him. So I know he's not, but he definitely looks well loved. And so I look around. I try to see if anyone else was in there. Because he had been snowed over, but like the snow had piled up on him a little bit. And I like, part of the thought crossed in my mind that I should probably check, like, has anyone come in asking for this doll or anything? But then I look at it. I'm like, life has gifted me this child, and I shall care for him for the rest of my life. So, that's how I met Sharon, my bunny. I named him after my aunt, my late aunt. But I carry him around with me wherever I go now. Because before I had my Krona doll, which is my character Krona in doll form, that my friend Becca made for me. But after all of his hair fell out basically, and I lost his jacket, I found it under my bed, but his jacket went missing and one of his arms fell off. I was pretty sure it was time for him to join Glumshank's doll, whose head had fallen off previously, and I had sewed it back on, but after that I was like, yeah, now it's time for you to retire, let's switch to the Krona doll. And then once Krona doll had run his life, they're both sitting on my shelf, I was like, I don't have any other dolls that I have close attachment to. And then I see the purple bunny, and I'm like, perfect. You shall be my next child. And so now, wherever I go, I just take purple bunny child named Sharon after my late aunt. And I love him so much. And that is one of the few good things to come out of that job, other than money and some strange experiences, was my bunny child, who I care for forever. And I'm now realizing I forgot to bring him into my recording room. God dang it. Anyway, that is all of my notes, so that's where I'm gonna leave it for now. If I end up getting another job in the future, I'm probably gonna make a video on commission stories eventually. But for now, that is the end. Thank you so much, Single Rotting Door Frame, for watching this. My name has and will always be Scrape, and I shall see you in the next one. Okay, bye. Welcome to Fan Art Feature, a segment I am starting to showcase some of the fabulous artists I have come across in my short existence on this platform and all the other platforms that I exist on. Today's fan art feature is this Adonis of a piece created by Snow Studios, who drew their version of Chaos with my version of Chaos, and I love it so much. I cannot stop gushing about it. Every time I see it, I just feel my heart go ooh-woo, and it makes me feel happiness like no other. If you would like to check out Snow Studios, they are currently working on a comic with this Chaos as a character in it. So, like, their Chaos, not my Chaos. So if you would like to check that out, I will leave their socials in the description below. Please consider checking them out if you haven't already. And with that, I shall be leaving you with this video ending. Okay, bye.